let's get on with the topic at hand today. So we're going to talk about working with bookmarks and working with reports. Pretty exciting stuff. Now, everything for this particular session I'm giving is available to you online. Okay, so for instance, if you follow this particular path right here, github.com, criticalpathtraining.com/bookmarks, what you'll find is that there is a GitHub repository with 4 files available to everybody in the world, including you. So there are the slides. Note that with the slides, I might have to save after I present. So just after the conference, the slides will be up to date. But there's also 3 Power BI desktop projects that I'm going to be showing from inside here. So just wanted you to know that they're all available to you. Okay. Also, my company, Critical Path Training, has 2 classes you might be interested in: Power BI Certification Bootcamp, Power BI Developer Bootcamp. Let's not go into too much marketing right now. Let's go ahead and start with the program. So we're going to start just by looking at the stream of new features that the Power BI team has put out when it comes to report design. And eventually we'll get more and more into bookmarks. We're going to talk about creating page navigation using bookmarks. We're going to talk about using bookmarks to capture data settings, such as your filter and slicer settings. We're going to talk about using bookmarks to show and hide visuals. And what you can do is you can bring out neat user interface experiences by doing that. And then finally, we're going to talk about implementing drill-through. So we have quite a lot to go through. First of all, let me throw out a thanks to everyone in the Power BI team, especially Amanda Kofsky. She's so good about blogging every month and telling us about these new features that are out there. So definitely those who want to work with bookmarks are writing the update stream. Now, just to go through some of the things, that we have had added to our platform, chronologically going back to September of last year, we got drill-through features. If you went to the Data Insight Summits conference back in June, Microsoft teased bookmarks and everyone kept saying, when are they coming out? When are they coming out? And it was in October 2017 where actually Power BI desktop and the service was updated with bookmarks and the ability to create different objects on a report to act as buttons so we can have bookmark linking. We also got the selection pane and gave us the ability to hide and show visuals on a report. And we got visual spotlighting. We're going to cover all that today. In November 2017, they updated the selection pane so that I can move visuals up and down, above or below each other, and control, which one is actually going to be laid on top visually and cover the other one up. We also have a lock objects tab that we're going to look at. Note that in December, there was this one thing that bookmarks weren't recording, which was cross-highlighting, but they went ahead and added support for that in 2007. We also got the field pane, and we got the Q&A support. We'll look at the field pane today. We're not going to look at the Q&A support that was added to Power BI Desktop. Very interesting feature, just not something we're going to talk about today. And then we just had an update earlier this month in January 2008, and we have the hide and show report page tabs feature, and we're going to integrate that in as we go through today. Okay, now, if you open up Power BI Desktop, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't there 6 months to a year ago. So what is lock objects? It's a mode you put Power BI Desktop in to prevent you from moving your visuals accidentally. We'll see that in just a second. We have the bookmarks pane used to create and manage bookmarks. We have the field properties pane used to add field descriptions. And we have the selection pane, which is going to be really important with bookmarks because the selection pane is used to select a visual, to control its order from top to bottom, and also to hide and show. Okay, now let's look at lock objects. So if I go ahead and move over to my particular project right here, how many times do you move something around by mistake? And Control-Z will kind of put that back for you. But what's kind of nice is that if you click on lock objects, well, now you can't move anything around. Everything is locked down and prevents fumble-fingered people like me from messing things up. Note that lock objects is not a setting that's tracked at the project level. So you can't really set up for your project and then expect to open a project and have lock objects to be automatically turned back on. It's basically just a switch for the application. If you turn it on and then you open another project, lock objects is on for that project. If you turn it off and then you open up a project that you had locked projects on before, it's not on. Okay. Now, lock objects itself, pretty simple. How about this thing called the Field Properties pane? So the idea with the Field Properties pane is that when you turn it on, there is a new property, a new Field Properties pane, and if you then select a field, which can be any native column, any calculated column, or any measure that you have in the fields list, you can then add a description. So the idea is that if you're the data model author, you'll add descriptions, and then those that are using your data model, can see the descriptions as a tooltip. Just a quick example of this. Back here, let's go ahead and turn on the field properties. Once we do that, we'll go ahead and take sales revenue. Here's the one I've already put inside there. Let's put an X, Y, Z, a couple different exclamation points inside there. So there I was just kind of playing the role of the author. Now I'm just some consumer. I come around, I hover over here, and all of a sudden I kind of see the description inside there. Okay, so interesting, neat, maybe nothing to write home about yet. Okay, the next thing we're going to see is this thing which is called the selection pane. The selection pane gets to be very important because you can change the characteristics of objects on a page. Generally, you think of visuals, but objects also include images. They include shapes. And the idea is you can see them all in the selections pane. You can move things up and down, to control what's on top and what's on the bottom. You can also hide and show things inside there. Okay, so a quick example. I'll hide the field properties pane. We'll show the selection pane inside here. There's that map. Maybe I don't want to see the map. I can go ahead, hide it, and show it. One of the things that you're going to see is that you can hide things and show things, and if you have 10 different objects, you can decide which ones are showing, which ones are hidden, and then you take a bookmark. Just takes a snapshot. Then you can change which ones are showing, hidden, take another bookmark. Okay, so what you're going to see is the selection pane gets to be really important. Also note that if I unlock this and I can move things around, what you can see now is that the map is on top of my bar chart. Okay, great. If I come back here and take the map and I put it under the stacked column chart inside here, which I think I can do eventually, what you're going to see is that you're able to move things, on top or below one another inside there. Okay, so that's one Control Z, two Control Zs. Okay, now we're back to where we were. Okay, now in addition to the selection pane, we have bookmarks. Now remember that even now, as of January 2018, bookmarks are still in preview, which means that if you want to use them in Power BI Desktop, you have to go to the options dialog and turn on bookmarks and basically restart Power BI Desktop. Once you do that, what you're going to see is that you're going to have the bookmarks pane inside there, and you're going to be able to see your bookmarks. Now, the bookmarks pane gives you the ability to create bookmarks. Once you create a bookmark, you can also click on the bookmark to, basically navigate to the bookmark. If you have a bookmark and you haven't recorded it properly, you can kind of change the page and update the bookmark inside there. And then you can also move bookmarks back around. Now, what are bookmarks? I go to this particular page right here, and the idea is that what page am I on? Maybe I want to control that by bookmarks inside here. Now, in our case right here, let's go ahead and turn on the bookmarks pane. And I have these different bookmarks. And one might go to a specific page. One might go to the same page but have some different settings put inside here. But the idea is that you can navigate to a page, and you can also control various settings inside there with our bookmarks. So once again, what can be recorded? And when I say what can be recorded, it's because there's several categories of things that you can record, and you can choose to either capture or ignore certain types of things. So they don't have to be recorded, not everything, but here's what can be recorded. The current page. So if you want bookmarks to navigate from page to page, that's an important setting to capture. There's also filters and slicers. Now remember, there is a big difference. Filters I really think of as the way that the report author controls the filtering. Slicers are visuals that you add to a page where the consumer of the report controls the filtering. And what you'll see is that you can use bookmarks with either type. But quite often, if you use the wrong type, you're going to start basically wishing you had used filters. In particular, I see some people using slicers when they really should be using filters. Now, it also records the visual sort order. So if you have a table and you're sorting by the state name versus the sales revenue, you can basically take one bookmark, which sorts the visual one way, and a second bookmark, which sorts the visual the other way. There's the drill location. So if you're drilling down to something like a bar chart down a hierarchy, it remembers where you were. There's also the visibility. So remember the selection pane. You can hide and show every single object on the page. And the idea is that once you set it to showing or hidden, when you basically record a bookmark, you're going to capture that setting. And then there's also something which is called spotlighting. Spotlighting is a way to emphasize a particular visual, and we'll see some examples of that in just a second. Now, what's great about bookmarks, as everyone will tell you, is that they are the foundation for storytelling, because you can basically take a consumer of a report and lead them down a particular path. Now, remember that everything about bookmarks are for reports only. There's nothing about bookmarks that translate over into dashboards, so you really have to be interested in doing something with a report, not a dashboard, before bookmarks are going to be interesting to you. Now, one of the easy things that you could do is to run your bookmarks as a slideshow. So the idea here is, let's go back and note that if I have my different bookmarks, I could bring open the Bookmarks pane, and we can go through here, one by another. Great. If I click View inside here, it basically puts me into something that's like a PowerPoint slide deck. And the idea is that then the user has this control to navigate, page by page, or not even page by page, but it's view by view, where each view is defined by a bookmark inside there. Now, if I go over to the browser, and remember that as you're creating bookmarks, quite often you're going to be doing that, inside of Power BI Desktop, but ultimately you want to, make the experience good for a user that's going to be going through, inside of the browser. So let's go ahead, and we're going to open up this inside of the browser. So note that I've already published this report with Power BI Desktop, and the Bookmarks pane works just as well inside there. Now that I have that over here, I have a little view. I'll go ahead and click View. And so now what you'll see is that someone can now step through my particular report, as it is a slide deck. Okay, now a couple things here. Let's say that I get to the Western view, and I want to show them a picture. But now what we're going to do is we're going to do something which is called spotlighting. The idea of a spotlight is, as you're moving through bookmarks, to really emphasize a particular visual. So first of all, I spotlighted the column chart. Now I'm spotlighting the map. Now we're going to move over to a table visual, which is being spotlighted. And take note that at this point, the table visual is being sorted by the state name. Well, now I have a second bookmark right here that just changes the sort order. We're still spotlighting the table visual, but now we want to go ahead and sort by sales revenue to basically see who are the customers, or what are the states bringing in the highest sales revenue inside there. Okay, and now we'll go back over here, and as we go through, maybe now we go to the central region and go through inside there. Okay, now what you can see here is that when I was in Power BI Desktop and I was kind of building this out, I was able to take these different bookmarks inside here. Now I built the central region bookmarks inside here. Great. Okay, now let me exit out of that particular mode right here. Okay, and one of the things that you can see is that if I now want to create bookmarks for the Eastern region, So let's make this a little bit longer and kind of see what this guy Ted has been doing. So for the Western region, he has a couple different bookmarks: start drill down mode, spotlight, bar chart, spotlight. Okay, so let's go ahead and simply click on the Eastern region. Now we've moved over to the Eastern region, so let's go ahead and click on Add Bookmark. Okay, so now what we have is the Eastern, and we have the Eastern region. And let's say that this is the drill down start. Okay, so now that we've got that inside here, what I'm going to do is simply go up to this one visual, the bar chart, drop it down, and spotlight it. Okay, now let's go ahead and say Add Bookmark. Now that I've created a bookmark, I'll now come down here. Let's take this bookmark, and now what are we going to do? We're going to, spotlight, visual 1 inside here. And so now that we've done that, great. Let me go back here and spotlight a second visual, and now we'll click on Add one more time. So now that is visual 2. Now we'll spotlight this guy right here, and once again we'll have Eastern region. This is visual 3. Okay, now I don't like the sort order here because we're sorting by state, so let's go ahead and change the sort ordering inside there. Okay, and then one more time we'll take the bookmark and spotlight V3, and then change sort inside there. Okay, so once again you can kind of see that here is the drill down, and now we've kind of created just this path through our data by changing various things inside there. Okay, so that's our first demo, just looking at how you can use bookmarks as a slideshow, and also how you can have bookmarks created on the fly. Note that one more thing. Let's say I go back here and I had my bookmark incorrect. For instance, if I go back here and I choose update. Now notice that if I'm going to Eastern places, it looks great. I go to Eastern drill down and I have my region wrong. So here's the idea that if your bookmark's incorrect, simply navigate to the bookmark, change what needs to be changed, and then simply come down here and choose update, and it simply re-records the settings for the current page inside there. Okay, so where are we at so far? We just looked at bookmarks. Now, I want to take a quick tangent as we go through today. There's a bunch of new custom visuals that shipped at the end of 2017. So there's a new text filter, which is great because it gives you, the ability to type in things you're searching for. There's the image grid, the table heat map. Maybe you've seen people from Microsoft doing demos with that card browser. The baseball card demo is very cool. The image timeline, showing the presidents, also very cool. There's the Power KPI matrix that was added, and I've seen some really neat demos and videos based on that. The one that Chuck loves, Chuck Sterling, is the Power Apps custom visual. The one we care about here is the HTML viewer, just because I'm using that in our current demo. Okay, so let's say that we have a need to look at something inside here. So let's go back to this particular project right here. And in this particular project, okay, bookmark slideshow, let's go back to our product catalog. And note that we have this particular, and it might take a second before those light in. So what I wanted to kind of show is how we can use this thing, which is the HTML visual, the HTML viewer. So note that, let's create a new page, and let's go ahead and put the HTML viewer inside here, and now let's do something such as look at a product. But I'm not really going to look at a product. Instead, let's create a new measure, and I'll call that something like my HTML. And so what I'm going to do inside here is let's go ahead and create a div. And now that I have created a div, and you're saying, what the heck are you doing? And you're saying, are you really, putting, together HTML, inside of, are you putting together HTML inside of DAX? And the answer is yes. Now, I've already messed up this demo because I need to create a calculated column, not a measure. So let's go back here to products and create a new column. And this is going to be my HTML equals. Okay, now let's go ahead and see if I can at least kind of do the simple one. Okay, so here is a div. And then what do we put in next? We'll just kind of put in, whatever the, product name is, which is product. And now let's go ahead and close this particular div inside here. And so now that we have got that inside, and inside here, I'm looking at what did I mess up. I have this one little strange thing inside there. Okay, so now after all that work, let's go back to our visual and let's go ahead and add that into category. So what you're going to see here is, maybe I don't want that to, be a div. I want it to be a H1 inside there. But what you see, is that you get, one row gives you basically one instance, so you're creating a particular template inside there. Now, let's take that, to the next step, and let's go kind of take a look at this product catalog. So with this product catalog visual right here, I've got basically a lot of DAX that we've put together with HTML. So once again, these are samples that you can kind of digest. But if your table, has things that are interesting to display and you just can't find a good flexible way with any of the Power BI visuals that you use to show your data, the HTML viewer gives you complete control. Okay, yes, you're saying there's nothing that could be as painful as parsing together HTML using DAX. That might be true. This might be a good time, if you're going to go down this road, to check out DAX Studio. So those crazy Italian guys over there, and this is nothing they've done recently. DAX Studio has been around for a while. Just kind of gives you a way, if you're going to be writing big hunks of DAX, especially, parsing together HTML, this might be a good free product for you to invest in. Just a little thing into the weeds here. If you kind of look at the code, up at the top of the calculated column, I've used DAX variables so that I can basically split out my CSS styles so they're easier to maintain. Then the measure returns just a complete HTML element. We're returning a div with a table inside, but with the div, we put the inline block. And then the last thing I want to call out is that when you need to have things like formatted numbers, you can see that the DAX code is using the DAX format function, to put the formatting in place. Once again, if you go inside here, you can kind of see the exact layout that we get, and just kind of creating a neat visual experience inside there. Okay, so the HTML viewer has nothing to do with bookmarks. Just thought we'd go in that tangent for a little bit. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about creating navigation bookmarks. So what we now want to do is kind of look at a simple way to navigate from one page to another. Okay, so in this case right here, let's go back and we'll go into a second one called Bookmark Navigation and Filtering. And here I have 3 different pages right here. And you can go to a particular page and you can pretty much take a snapshot of it by recording a bookmark. Okay, now you can see that I have these bookmarks to go from one page to another page inside there. Okay, that's neat stuff. Note that if I go to a particular object, and this can either be a shape or a image, note that there is a link button down here. And the idea is that if you go to an image or a shape and you basically switch link to on and you switch the type to bookmark, now you can put to a particular page inside there. Okay, now let me navigate back to the browser. Let me go to this demo inside of the browser, and notice that when you click on buttons, inside the browser, when your report is in report-only mode or read-only mode, they work just great. Okay, now when you're in Power BI Desktop, there's this little rub that when you click on one of these shapes or images, you're clicking to select it. So the click doesn't do anything. You need to hold down the control key when you're in Power BI Desktop, and when you hold down the control key, then we have the proper button click event firing and triggering to link to the particular bookmark. Okay, now what we're waiting for is the Power BI team to give us a button visual. Today, your choices are, one, create an image, and basically go pull in a image from somewhere. Here I'm showing off the image of our new Tampa Bay Power BI user group logo, created by Tommy's friend. Pretty neat thing. But the idea is that if you need 10 buttons and they all have to have fancy text on it, you can create that in PowerPoint, you're going to create it in Visio, you're going to create it in Photoshop. So here's this little trick, and that is if you just want the simplest thing, you can take a rectangle, and what you're going to see is that this is a complete hack, but here's the easiest way to do it today, and that is you go to the title, and I'm going to basically say, click me, so I'm creating a particular button. Let's make my button text a little bit bigger. Okay, I know someone there is saying, you've got to be kidding me, Ted. I'm not kidding you. This is the hack, so is it a best practice? I'm not really sure if we should call it a best practice, but it is something that you can kind of create something quick inside there. Let's take the fill color, put it to 0. Now we'll put this up here. Great. Now I'll go to back color of the visual itself. We'll go ahead and turn that on. And now that we have done that, and let's go back to the title and turn that to a particular color. Now you've created the simplest clickable thing. Okay, so all my demos are using that technique right here. I think what we can expect in the short term is that the Power BI team will give us something new that we will put on a report, and we'll just be able to kind of quickly type in a caption and not have to have this kind of silly way to go about doing something inside there. Okay, so now that you've seen that, let's go back to our demo right here. And what you've seen is I have these different page buttons. Now, let's also go over this new feature of hiding pages. Note that before January, if you added a page, it would show inside the page tab. But now, if you have something like drill down mode, which we're going to look at the end of this session, you have a page and you don't want users to navigate directly to the page. You want them to drill through from another page. So it's possible for you to hide page tabs, and you're always going to see them in Power BI Desktop because you might need to edit them. But the idea is that when a consumer is in read-only mode in the browser, the page tab will no longer be visible. Okay, so we'll hide this page. We'll hide this page. We'll hide this page. We go to the last page. Note that you can't hide every single page. You have to have one page which is showing. And the idea is that when they open the report, there has to be at least one page that they can navigate to initially. But one of the tricks that you can do is you can have a welcome page and hide all your other pages inside here. Now, let's go back to the browser. Let's go ahead and go back to this inside here. So what we're going to see at this case right here, let me go ahead and navigate, back to this report inside here. And as I navigate to this report, please let me navigate to this report. What you can see is, I take someone to the welcome page. Now, note down here that I do have a welcome page, in the tab. I suspect in the future they might give me a way to suppress that or to kind of link to that so that doesn't show. But the idea is that now you can take them to page 1. They can now start navigating, from page 1 to page 2. And you don't let them navigate to these individual pages, unless they're going through your particular navigation buttons, you've created with the bookmark links inside there. Okay, so now you've seen that. Let's talk about bookmark types, or the type of data that you can capture. So note that if you look at page 1 there in the bookmarks list and you hover over it, there's the little menu, the ellipse. If you click on that and you drop it down, what you can see is that we have the ability to specify whether we want to track data or display or just the current page. So if I have a bookmark like page 1, page 2, and page 3, and they're just for navigation, we're going to turn off data because when I go to a page, I don't want to turn off navigation. I don't want to turn off any type of filtering that's already put in place. Okay. Likewise, if I have something that is going to filter at the report level so that I can set a filter and then go from one page to another and have that filter set, well, what I can do is I can have macros that just record and play back the data settings. Okay. And then the third one we're going to look at last is display settings. And that's whether something is visible or hidden. And we'll see some examples of that in just a bit. Okay. So let's look at using bookmarks to capture data. Now, if I go back to, our first example right here, and you can use slicers and you can capture data with slicers. But what you also might consider is that do you really need the user to see the slicer? And the answer will sometimes be yes and sometimes be no. But if you can get the slicer out of there and just use filtering instead. Now let's go to this second demo right here where we're kind of navigating from one page to another. Now when we navigate from one page to another here, okay, here's the one I want to get to. What you're going to see is that these have current page, but don't change the data. Okay. Now, the other ones down here, when I click on these, are going to change the filtering. Now, here's this thing that we want to get. Let's say I navigate to page 3. And so the filter has been set, for the Western region inside here. And if I go to page 2, Western region is still set. If I go to page 1, Western region is still set. Let's go to the Eastern region now. And I have page 1, I have page 2, and I have page 3. Great. Okay, now let's see how you might have problems right here. Let's say that we had all regions, and I go to page 2, and right now page 2 is showing all regions. Okay, let's say that I go over here and I take page 2 and I update it, and then I mistakenly also include data inside there. Okay, so the problem here is that if I go to page 1, okay, and now we set Eastern region. There's the Eastern region in page 1. I go to page 3, it's showing the Eastern region. I go to page 2, and it shows everything because I recorded the data. And now it's basically taking whatever data setting, had to be there, was there when I recorded page 2. So once again, the solution for that is to, if you have things that are navigating from page to page, basically just track the data inside there. Okay. And also for these over here, for these 4 buttons that link to these, it's important that we don't track the current page. Now, how were these created? If you look at things like the Western region inside here, let's go back and bring up the visualizations list inside here. And if I now make it so that nothing is selected, notice that we have filters here. And the idea is that you can set a report level filter, and notice that that's what we're doing, as we're taking these. So basically I had no report level filter for sales regions, and we recorded the all regions. And then we did the same thing for Western regions, Central regions. And so the idea is you set a report level filter, then when you move from page to page, the filter stays in place across pages. So I've seen some people try to do this with slicers. Remember, slicers do not work across pages. So anything that you do with a slicer, it's always going to be native to a page. There's been talk on the Power BI team of introducing the global slicer, but since it's not out or previewable yet, these are the things that we have to work with. So I really encourage you to kind of think in terms of working with the filters, and especially report level filters, and being able to take snapshots of that inside there. Okay, so we've seen basically using bookmarks to capture data settings. Great. Okay, now let's go ahead, and now we're going to look at using bookmarks to hide and show a visual. Okay, let's look at the finished product first. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to navigate back to the browser. Let's go back to the Power BI desktop project called Bookmarks Demo inside there. Let's go ahead and load that in. Now, once I load this inside here, once again, pushing the pirate logo for the Power BI user group in Tampa. We have Gasparilla coming up over the next 2 weekends. Okay, let's go ahead, and as I move inside here, I can basically get to product catalog. I have a couple different buttons inside here that are letting me change the filtering. Note that if your filtering is contained to a single page, well, then you can use slicers. And the idea of, why is the slicer neat is because once you've set something, you've given the user, the ability to go down, and add a couple more things inside there. Okay. Now, in our case right here, the next demo, I'm going to go ahead and click Sales by Time Period. So what we have is we have this chart that's basically showing, day-to-day sales. Okay, some users might want to see, things charted monthly or quarterly or yearly. So what we're trying to do is kind of just give them the quick ability to change things inside here. Once again, we kind of wanted to add this complexity. We have a slicer inside here. So what's important is someone changing back and forth, between these, doesn't inadvertently reset the slicer back to a different date inside there. Okay, now let's go down here and kind of see how this is going to work. So let's go back to time period inside. Now, just to make things a little bit easier, what you're going to see here is that we have 7 different visuals. So here's one. And also, if I look at some of the other ones that we have inside here, let's go ahead and sales revenue by month, sales revenue by year. So in effect, we're going to have 4 different visuals. Now, they're all laid on top of one another inside there. Let me go ahead and just kind of show them to you so we can kind of see what's going on here. And just one more second, I'll be ready to continue on with the demo. But what you can see inside here is that you're able to hide and show things inside there. And so as we start clicking on these different things, we're basically just hiding and showing another one inside. And so when we look at these, what we're able to do is to basically say, well, here's the one visual that I want to show. Well, now let's go ahead and hide that one and show a different one inside here. And the idea is that, once we have done that and we're showing the proper one, well, now we can basically go back to our bookmarks bar and we can go ahead and add that, and that is, show one and hide the other 3 inside there. And so the idea is that when you're going around and someone clicks on that, you're deciding, which ones are hidden and which ones, are going to be showing inside there. Once again, if we kind of go back here and kind of see, what is the important part here is that it looks like a single visual and that you're somehow controlling, the configuration of the visual, but no, you're basically just using multiple visuals that are working on the same data and you're basically just hiding and showing. Now, what's important here is, let's go back, here, I'm in the browser just to kind of show that with bookmarks, inside of the browser, let's say that we go ahead and click on, display the daily view inside here. What would happen, if we had data on by mistake? So let's go ahead and turn on data. Let's go ahead and update that inside there. And the idea is that, as you move back and forth between these, you're looking at different time periods, but now let's say that we want to look at a different time period, and now we're going fine, and we click on this guy, and all of a sudden this guy wants to change the filtering. So we don't want him to change the filtering. We just basically want him to hide 3 visuals and show the one that's current right now. So being able to come to our visual inside here, drop that down and say, don't do anything with data, but just basically change the display. That's the important takeaway inside there. Okay, let's keep going through here. Last thing we're going to look at is implementing drill through. So let's kind of see the consumer view of how drill through works. So let's say that we have our top 10 customers page. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move to our top 10 customers page. And any second now, I should be able to get to this page. Okay, and now that we get to the top 10 customers page, this page gives us the ability to kind of search by year and or location and whether you're a one-time customer or not. But the idea is that once you find a particular customer and you want more information, if we right-click, there is a drill through button inside here. And the idea with drill through is that now we should be able to drill through and get to this one page and find out some more about this one customer. Okay, great. Notice that drill through pages have a back button. And when I click the back button, I can now go out and look at a second customer. And once again, we can drill through to get to the details of that particular customer. Now, what can you drill through into? And it turns out that it could be just about anything. So if I take a look at my data model, what you'll find here is that you can go pretty much to any table, like customers. We could drill through into city. We could drill through into customer. That's what we're doing. We could drill through, into sales region, into state, into zip code. For product, I could drill through into a particular product, or I could drill through into the product category inside. Now, let's see how this works inside there. So let's go ahead and I'm going to move back to report view inside here. And you take a column and then you create a page. So we've created this page called customer details. Now let's show how easy it is. Let's say I create a second page, and this one is going to be customer details 2. Now at this point it's a regular page, but what I'm going to do is, well, now I'm going to go up and we're going to use the visualization pane, which has the filters. And for this one particular page, there's no drill through filter that's set. So if I go to customers and I take the sales region and I drop that inside there, and now we have a drill through page. Now, generally when you drill through, you're going to have some number of items and you want to drill through to see one of them. So when I create the page, we're going to go ahead and choose Western inside here. Okay, now I know I could go ahead and steal some things from this other page right here. So at first I'll just go ahead and steal some simple things. Many people don't know that we now have multiple select. Notice that if you hold down the control key, you can select multiple objects, and I can kind of move them over to a page, one at a time, or multiple things at a time. Now, another thing that you might not have noticed, and I should have pointed out, let me create one more page, and we'll call this one, customers detail 3. Watch what happens when I take sales region, or in this case, I'll take sales region, and we go ahead and we drop it inside here. And now I just realized that I'm going to go back to customers. And what we want to do is not drill down on sales region. That was my mistake. We want to drill down on a particular customer. Okay, and then we'll pick one particular customer inside there, and that's how we get the drill down page. Now, over here, customer 3, what I want you to see is the moment that you take something like customer or sales regions and you drop it into drill through features, you now have a drill through page, and they automatically add the back button inside there. Now, you can replace the back button, with something different if you want to use a different image inside there. If I go and we look at the border link, note that you can either point to a bookmark, or if it's a drill through page, you can have a back arrow. So now we have the back arrow inside there. Now, let's go back to our customers page and note that if I now click on a bar in a bar chart, there's the drill through, and there's 3 pages to drill through. Now, let's say that I go ahead and I go into a table or a matrix inside here. So all the built-in visuals, as they show one instance, whether it's a customer, a sales region, a product to product category, if there is a drill through page for that column or more, they will basically bring that out. And now what we're able to do, is have the drill through scenario. Now, I think you would think that of all the different things we might do, when you use drill through, it's the most obvious reason to hide pages inside there. So, even if you were showing the page that had the top 10 customers, you would never want someone to directly go to a drill through page because they just have the customer that was arbitrarily set when you were doing your design inside there. So the idea that you would then hide the pages, gets to be important. Once again, if I go back here and we kind of take a look at, what is the default experience, of this last report we're looking at. Okay, well, we have the top 10 customers. We've created the drill through pages inside there. And, once again, drill through makes it possible for us to go inside there and look at customer 1. Great. Let's go ahead and move back. Let's look at customer 2 and so on. So that is the drill through experience inside there. Okay, so I think we've been through all the material at this point. One quick plug, if you liked this type of training at Critical Path Training, at criticalpathtraining.com, we have a Power BI Bootcamp or a certification bootcamp. Teaches the things you need to get certified. The audience is data professionals, business users, a lot of work with Power BI Desktop, a lot of the kind of work that we did here inside there. We also have a dedicated developer course. So that developer course looks at using TypeScript to create custom visuals. We've now added M programming to create custom connectors. We have R code, and we have lots of C# code and using the Power BI REST API to do things like do Power BI embedding and to create real-time dashboards.